to the cloud. Yeah. Okay. All right. So, welcome everyone to our channeled journaling workshop exercise. How many of you actually channel on a daily basis? I mean, actually journal on a daily basis? No? No, Venus? What about you, Dawn?
No.
Okay. How many of you have been told that you should be journaling on a day-to-day basis? Yes. Let me ask you this. When you sit down to journal, do you look at the page and go, I really don't want to do this? No? You go, it doesn't feel like anything's coming out. What am I even talking about on this page? You guys get that kind of sense when you sit down to do it? Yes, no, maybe?
I'm really good at journaling. It's the making the time for it.
Making the time for it. Okay, yeah, I get that. What about you, Venus?
I kind of just have writer's block. I have a lot of issues when I used to write journals when I was younger.
Mm-hmm.
That, you know, my brother and my ex-husband, they always like missed me. And
Yeah.
so my ex-husband was also a narcissist and dictated to me what I could even write back to my family. And so when I sit down.
Oh, you went away. I can't hear you.
I said when I sit down to write, I just like freeze.
Oh, wow. That's interesting. We're going to turn that around. We're going to turn that around today so that that you can get more freedom from your journaling. Okay. What about you, Dawn?
It seems like it's just I forget to do it, and but I feel good when I do it, and sometimes it comes easier than other times.
Mm-hmm. Timing for me is hard. Like Amber has said, trying to find the time to do it. And it's actually getting into a discipline of doing it. I have found for me that sometimes it's easier for me to channel in the evening. To journal in the evening, than it may be in the morning. And so I've actually started journaling in the morning and then started journaling in the evening. And I've been making my journaling in the morning about, prepping for the day and asking for that intuitive guidance for the day. And I've been just journaling out my emotions from the day in the evening as I go to bed. And I've actually, I don't make my journaling practice like a huge practice. I make it, 5 to 6 minutes. I don't take a long time just to do it. I just, and even if I've even tried this new way of journaling, which is, what is it called? Voice to text. So I've been doing that a little bit, which I find helps me a lot. Okay. But when we want to start getting into the journaling piece, where we're actually channeling divine guidance, and we're actually channeling in our guides or channeling in information that we are searching for. Have you had any success with that? Has anyone ever tried that, or have you had any success with that? Hey, Christine.
I've got some feedback, and I don't know where it's coming from exactly, but I have written down some feedback.
Okay, so channel journaling is what we call inspired writing. Okay, it's inspired from a more divine source. And one of the reasons why I wanted to do this workshop with you guys is because I sat down to write out and to journal. And as I sat down to write out and journal, I actually took the time to do it. But when I sat down to actually write out and journal, I began to look at the page and I was like, I got nothing. I've got nothing. Like what is this? There is nothing here. I have nothing to say. There's nothing I want to talk about. I'm totally bored and I don't want to do this. So you know what I did? Is I went onto the page and I wrote, this really sucks. I'm supposed to be journaling. I know journaling is good for me. I have nothing. I feel non-inspired. I am so bored. Why am I doing this? And then all of a sudden, I started with, well, I'm doing this because I know it's worthwhile. I'm doing this because I know that when I do this, I can spill out my emotions. I can make this paper an extension of who I am. I don't have to judge what I'm saying. I can just, and I started, right? And I just continued on, and it continued on. Would be just pouring out my frustration, my anger, my emotions. I was cussing at the paper. I'm like, oh, this is fucking boring. And I was doing all those things. And then all of a sudden, I started to feel better. And I was like, oh, okay, this is good. This is good. And then as I continued on, I started journaling about, what we're supposed to be journaling about, daydreaming about our lives and how we want to see and the things that we want to call into our world. And I was journaling in my personal life and the next steps forward and all those things that I want in the next step forward. And then I started to hear as I was beginning to write on my dreams and goals and aspirations for the day and for the life ahead of me, I began to hear and feel a sense that somebody was with me. And as I was writing it out and thinking about what I wanted and the goals that I wanted to call in, I heard, it's coming. I went, And it wasn't like this booming inside voice inside of me, and it wasn't like somebody had whispered in my ear. It was just a feeling as I was sitting there with the page that it was something else coming in that said, it's coming. And I said, okay, so it's time to start channeling. Okay? Now, channeling is not as mystical as we try to make it out to be. Right? We are channeling all the time. We have spirit guides that are with us all the time. And so channeling isn't as mystical as we try to make it out, as the spiritual community tries to make it out to be. How many of you have ever felt like as you were writing, you were actually writing something that wasn't part of you, but was maybe something coming in through you?
I don't know.
You don't know. Okay, so
Through you as in a download?
Christine!
Through as in a download?
As in a download.
Oh my God, about 23 out of 24 hours a day?
So when you're writing and you suddenly find yourself writing so feverishly that it doesn't feel like it even belongs to you anymore. Do you know what I mean? Has anyone experienced that? I know you have, Christine.
Oh.
What about you, Venus? What about you, Amber and Dawn?
I don't know.
Okay. So this is what I want to do. This is what I want to do. I want to give you guys some homework. I want to give you guys some core work to do. And we're not going to call it homework, we're going to call it core work. Because I do want to talk on how important journaling is. Christine Ferraro can tell you how important journaling is. She's got her own even gratitude journaling class that she does. That's pretty amazing because journaling is very, very important. Journaling allows us to release emotion. Journaling allows us to create a dream. journaling allows us to call those things in. Now, one of the things that was a big hit for me when I realized, because I love to write. I'm a writer. I love to write. I mean, there's a huge part of me that is a writer. And I'm just like, I'm starting to step into that role of calling myself a writer, right? But I would have the hardest time sitting down to journal. And I would make excuses that there was not enough time. And I would tell myself that there was not enough time. And then it hit me, or it was shown to me that when I was putting off in the journaling was because maybe a deep-seated subconscious part of me didn't believe I was worthy of what I was journaling. Maybe there was something deep-seated within me that didn't feel worthy of what I was calling in on the page. And by putting it in on the page, I was making that thing, that thing that I was calling in, I was making it a tangible item and not just a dream. Anybody flowing with this? Anybody thinking about this for themselves?
Yeah.
So sometimes, like when we're putting things on paper, it's tangible, right? It's no longer in here. It's no longer something that I have to dream about. It's actually, I'm actually put it on paper, and now you've got this tangible result. And then you go, wait, am I really worthy of that? Okay, so when we are channeling, and when we are journaling, we can actually open up. When we are journaling, we can actually open up and gain a connection to channeling and channeling through our journaling. But what it's going to take you to remove some of the emotional blockages, the emotional barriers that you have when you sit down to journal. So in your channel journaling, I want this to be a 3-step process. The first part is, I want you to write down the emotions that you're feeling as you sit down to write down and journal. I want you to write down, I don't want to do this. I really don't have time for this shit. I can't even believe like this is even part of my core work. This is really boring. I hate journaling. I'm not a writer. Whatever it is, I want you to start out there. Okay? I want you to start out with just get the junk. This sucks. This is boring. I'm unhappy. Or I love journaling. Whatever it is, get out the emotion as you sit down. And every day is going to be different. Every day you might sit down on that table and you might be like, oh, hell yeah, I'm ready to do this. And that's what I want you to journal out. I want you to journal out, oh, hell yeah, I'm ready to do this. Oh, yeah, this feels good. Whatever that emotion is, I sit down to journal. Go ahead and pour that out. Okay? Let's get the emotion, let's get the attachment to the emotion removed. Okay? Now, the second part to this is whenever we are trying to make a divine connection, one of the ways that we can do this is by creating a memory. Okay? Now, I teach this in my mediumship class. When we are trying to connect to a loved one in spirit, one of the ways that we can start to fever or get the energy moving and get the energy calling to us and really getting engaged with the energy is to create a memory around that person, a happy memory around that person. And the more that we begin to create the memory, the more that we call into the energy. Now, so in this way, I sort of want you to do the same thing. I want you to, when you've got all the emotion junk out, even the happy emotions, whatever they are, part 2 is I want you to journal about a time that you've had a miracle happen in your life, or you've had a crazy aha moment, or you knew that your spirit guide showed up, or you knew that an angel showed up, or you knew that something amazing just happened, or some kind of weird synchronicity happened for you. Whatever that is, and Christine, I know you have a lot of synchronicities. whenever you have those moments, I want you to journal a memory around a moment where you've had a divine connection or some kind of weird aha moment happened or some kind of synchronicity happened.
I could
Okay.
write a book.
So in your daily journal, you just pick one.
I could write a book.
You just pick one, and
Oh
you
my
talk
God.
about you talk about the memory. Make sure it's a happy synchronicity or a happy memory related around it, okay? And you talk about and you discuss on that piece of paper exactly what it felt like and how it reminds you that we're not alone. That it reminds you that we're not alone, okay? And that we're never alone. Because that's going to get you connected. There's times, guys, like I feel so disconnected. And I mean, I was born with this stuff. And sometimes I'm like, where are you? Like, why am I feeling all alone? And it's because I'm letting the ego stuff and the ego stuff in my brain make that disconnection, right? And so I know in order to gain that connection back, I have to release the physical emotion part of me. And then I have to remember back and be like, oh my God, you remember that time when blah, blah, blah happened? And oh my God, like, how can I even be sitting here and say, where are you? Because I know you're here, right? I know you're here. So when we start getting connected to a memory of a synchronicity or some kind of aha moment or just something really beautiful that happens, what it begins to do is it begins to create a divine connection. It begins to engage that connection. It begins to amp up that connection. Okay? Because in part three, what you're going to be doing is you're going to be talking about the next steps that are positive movements for you. Okay? So now that I've gained this connection and I'm sitting here and I'm in this mundane life and I know that I've gained this connection and I can feel the energies ramping up, I just want you to sort of just close your eyes and go into heart space and ask, what is the question? Or you want to ask, what is the next step? So you pour down on your piece of paper, whatever it is, whatever goal you're trying to attain, whatever thing you're trying to call in, whatever real feeling you're wanting to connect with. And you put that down on the piece of paper. And you ask the question, what is the next step? How do I get to this? And what is the next step? And then you just close your eyes and you get back into that heart space and you just begin writing whatever enters into your imagination. Because spirit speaks to us through the imagination center of the brain. And oftentimes we can get confused as to what is the egoic part and what is the communication piece that we're receiving from the divine. Okay, so when I feel like when we're getting connected into that divine energy and we're asking that question, what is the next step? And we just basically type whatever comes in. You're probably going to receive a little couple pieces of egoic talk, but you're also going to receive a lot of the spirit talk and the spirit guide talk. So you're going to receive both of them. I also want you to be writing down what you feel. Just like when I was writing down what I was wanting and what my goals were, and I heard it's coming. I didn't hear it. It wasn't like someone said, "Hey, it's coming," and it wasn't like it was like this boom boom voice of God inside my head. It's like it's coming. It was just a feeling. It was a generalized feeling of it's coming. Like something inside of me spoke to me that said it was coming.
Cognizance.
What was it?
Clear cognizance.
Yeah, it could have been your claircognizance. We could go a little bit deeper in this with talking about the clairaudience versus claircognizance.
It's a knowing.
It's a knowing and it's a hearing at the same time. So what I want you to do is I want you to just write down the feelings and all those little weird things that happen that make you feel like, hey, it's coming. Hey, it's here. Hey, it's going. There are a couple things that you can do before you sit down to write. to sort of get yourself jazzed and into that space, you can light sage, you can light some incense, you can even darken the room if you're going to have a laptop up and have a light out or something, but you can have a room with a small candle, you can write by candlelight, you can sort of create some ritualistic pieces to make yourself feel more. Sometimes I have to get myself more involved, so I'll light some sage or I'll light some frankincense, dragon's blood, I'll light some candles just to get myself sort of jazzed and in the mood, because as a writer, I have a deep hard time sometimes sitting down and journaling. It's just something that I actually have to work on. I'm like, oh, I'll go meditate. I'll go meditate. Now it'll make it all better. But journaling is a big piece of development and growth. And I know when I do it, I see. When I do it, I see success with it. And I feel things start calling in a lot faster. They start coming in a lot faster, as Christine can tell you. And especially when we're making divine connections and showing gratitude. And at the end of this, I do want you to show gratitude. I want you to show gratitude for the words that showed up. Now, in the interim, when you first start this, when you first start doing this, it's going to feel like you're making it all up. Okay, especially if you've not had that awareness or had that connection, it's going to feel like, oh, this is all coming from me. This is all coming from my own voice. I'm just making it up. Is this even real? All these little positive things I'm throwing in there. Am I just saying that to make myself feel better? In the beginning, it may feel like that. Okay, and I want you to honor that. But at the same time, I want you to say, thank you, Divine, for showing up. Thank you, God. Thank you, Goddess. Thank you, whatever it is that you call it. Thank you, one and all. Whatever it is that you choose to call it, I want you to take a moment and at the end of that journaling, thank the Divine for showing up and answering your question. And so I want to challenge you guys to try this. Just try it for the next 7 days. Who's in? Who's in? Who's in to try the challenge?
Yeah, it sounds good.
Venus, you gonna try it? Okay. Christine, you gonna try it my way? You gonna try it?
Yeah, I will. I'll add it to my 3 other journals.
Yeah, I want you to feel that divine connection, and I want it to come through.
But half of my problem is that a lot of my channeled journaling comes, as you know, in the middle of the night. I literally wake up with downloads.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And have slept with literally paper and pen, because it's like programs will come to me or messages for people will come to me. And it's like, if I don't write them down, I wake up and 6 a.m. and I'm like, I know there was something I was supposed to write down and I didn't, and it's gone.
What you're experiencing there is a little bit different.
Okay.
That's that mediumistic side of you that you choose to ignore.
The side that doesn't exist.
The side that's only for Crystal. Okay, so I've told you this. I've told you this before, that you have an innate mediumship ability that you choose. When we wake up from dreams, guys, with messages for people, it's a mediumship. It's a divine connection. It's an energy connection thing that you have. It's an ability. Okay. Yes. Yes. When we actually sit down and make an intent to call forward the divine and ask for messages for ourselves for the next steps forward, that's when we begin to channel the information. Okay?
And that definitely is the part I have a harder time with.
Yes. And
I get a lot of symbolism, I do get a lot of signs because I've to watch for them and listen and recognize them. I do get a lot of, repeating numbers, as you know. And I get some crazy concrete signs sometimes. But when I specifically ask to show me or what, that's when I have a hard time specifically in the moment getting my response.
And that's why that part 2 is going to be really, really necessary. Is remembering back in a moment. You know how, like, when you when you remember something back in the past and you're like, and you laugh about it and you're having a good time about it, and then suddenly that person calls you and you're like, what the hell? I was just thinking about 10 years ago when we went to blah, 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 and here you are, you showed up. You almost call that energy forward.
Now that happens to me a lot.
See, and that
happens
that's
to me a lot.
When we do that, we're actually calling that energy forward to us. We're making that energetic connection to that energy of that person, which is calling them forward. Okay, so this is the same thing. People think it's like some weird ritualistic thing that you have to do to channel. You don't. It's just getting into the vibration of that energy. And by remembering and going into a memory that was pleasurable, or like, oh my God, what a crazy synchronicity, that was so funny. And you can talk about how funny it was, and you can talk about how it made you realize that you're not alone in this journey, and that, there's a divine. And you can even talk to the divine and just tell them, I'm so grateful for all the things and the ways that you showed up for me. Even if you don't have a specific memory when you sit down, you can say, I know there's been times where we've made this connection, where I've known that you're with me, where I can't make this shit up. And then you can just journal about that. But it's getting into the memory and feeling the energy of the divine that I think is going to help you call it forward, so that when you say, okay, now I'm going to center, I've released all the emotions, I've got the energy of the divine here with me, now I'm just going to center, and I'm going to focus a little bit on the next stages of my life, because I am worthy, and I am deserving of those things. And so instead of like journaling now what I want, it doesn't mean like, okay, so this day is going to look like this. I want you to go to the heart center and think about what it is that you want to call into your life. Think about what it is. Just go into the heart center and feel it inside the heart center. Call it in. What do you want to call into your life? And then you go on to the paper. Okay, this is what I want. How do I call it in? This is what I want to feel. How do I get there? What's the next step? And then just let your thoughts and the mind take over. And then when you come back to it, and you're looking back over the past week, really look at the words that you wrote on the paper. This is the interesting piece, because I think a lot of times we just write out in thought. We don't think that anything is coming out. And then all of a sudden you're writing to yourself, and you'll notice it'll be like a lot of I in the beginning part. And then in the third part, you'll notice there'll be like a lot of you. Okay? That's your ticket. Because when you're speaking to yourself, you're not going to speak to yourself and saying, you need to do this, you need to do that. You're going to speak to yourself in I. So pay attention to part 3 when you're answering it. When it says we, you, okay? The we's and the you's, that you would never, I'm not going to sit here right now and be like, okay, Aaliyah, you need to go to the store. I'm going to be like, I need to go to the store, right? I need to go to the store. So we don't speak to ourselves in that third person kind of speech. So notice the language that you're using in part 3 of the journaling. And notice how it's not coming to you. Notice new ideas that are coming through. Notice questions that are being answered. And oftentimes, guys, when you go to ask a question, and you can even play with this in the part 3 and begin to ask questions continuous as you get in the flow of it. Just continue to ask the divine questions. And you'll notice that the question is answered before you even write it. You're going to be like, well, why was the question answered before I even wrote it? Have you ever asked a question to the divine and had it answered before you even wrote it down? You know what I'm talking about? There's a reason this happens. Is because we are telepathic beings. We're telepathic energy beings. And before we think of the question, we are already vibrationally there. We have already asked in our vibration for that question before we thought it into our brain. Which is why when you go to ask the question, the answer might already be there. And you're like, okay, I'm just trying to keep up with my thoughts here. my thoughts are coming in faster than I can write, is because you're vibrationally already asking the question before you think of it in your head. Does that make sense? Yes, no, maybe so.
Yeah.
Okay, what questions do you guys have? Christine,
Yes.
what questions? You're laughing at me. What questions do you have?
Because it's like, for me, that's like a loaded question of itself. I don't really have any questions. I
Okay.
mean, I've always got questions.
Okay.
I don't, like I said, I know my periods of greatest connection are at the most inopportune times.
Mm-hmm.
And I have definitely written programs in the middle of the night. I think that my empathic abilities interfere a lot during the day with being able to, like, grounding is a very major part of what I have to do pretty much all day long, as you know.
Mm-hmm.
And so being able to ground and center so that I can refocus or listen or get a clear connection there, a challenge. It's definitely a challenge. And I've gotten much better at it.
Why don't you try this at night before you go to bed?
Okay.
Since that is the time.
My life's not busy at all.
And you want to know, you've got 3 kids. I've been to your house. I know what it's like. That's why I'm saying, why don't you wait until after that little one goes to bed, and you are able, and after Lindsay goes to bed, and you are able to sort of just be like, I have a glass of wine. I'm having a glass of wine. I'm hanging out on the couch. Grab your pen and paper and try this then. Because you may actually find a better, I want you not just to get the connections when you're waking up in the middle of the night. I want you to see that you can create the connection anytime that you want to call it in. Okay? And I think this would be a very important aha awareness opening for you. Okay?
Yeah. Because even though I generally vibe high all day long, I think it's almost like there's so much high vibe, it's hard to.
Well, you're running a business, you're running kids, you're running a household, and there's all those other stuff that's coming in. And when we're sitting down and we're like, I can breathe. Yes, you can actually channel and connect with the divine with drinking a glass of wine, by the way. For those of you who have been told that you cannot, you don't want to get sloshy drunk, of course.
Yeah, people have said it's dangerous to do that, and I'm like, I'm not talking about being looped.
Right. And I mean,
like, I've had people say, like, you should never drink while you're trying to channel. That's dangerous. Well, I'm not, like, doing satanic rituals, and, like, I'm not tanked. I'm having a glass of wine.
And it doesn't, the people will say, well, if you're tanked and you're drunk, then, you're going to, that's only your belief. If you believe that you are attracting in negative energy, then you're attracting in negative energy. You can have a glass of wine. I've had the most wonderful conversations over vodka with, not getting, but what it does do sometimes, and now this is going to sound really bad to say this, and what it can do for you sometimes is it can loosen your inhibitions just a little bit.
I was just going to literally say it lowers your inhibitions.
Yeah, it can.
Get out of my head.
It can. In my head. Especially if you're having a hard time connecting with them. It can loosen the inhibitions. Now, I wouldn't suggest getting sloshy drunk. We just wouldn't. And, if you are an alcoholic and reformed alcoholic, you're in your like, trying not to drink anymore, I wouldn't suggest that either. But if you are somebody who does like to drink a glass of wine, then have your glass of wine. Have your glass of wine. And just open the conversation, open your heart, open your emotional state. That's why I want you to lead with the emotional states, because I had the most powerful journaling experience when I did that. I was just mad. I was mad at journaling. Like, and I wasn't really mad at journaling. I was mad, right? And so I yelled at the paper, like, this is fucking boring. I mean, I was cussing and everything, blah, blah, blah. And people also think, oh, if you're cussing and you're in a bad mood, you can't connect with the divine. Bullshit. Bullshit.
Have to release to receive.
Yes. I have had blowouts, guys.
I remember, I have witnessed that.
I have had blowouts. And then at the end of my blowout, of course, was a release.
Mm-hmm.
And then all of a sudden,
and then you receive.
I could feel them.
Mm-hmm.
So there's nothing wrong with getting out the negative emotion. And also even sometimes too, when you're too high vibing and you're too positive, that's why I said if you get down to the piece of paper, you're like, oh, hell yeah, I'm going to journal this out. Write that. Because on either side of that, when we're too, it's still an attachment of emotion. It's still an attachment to an egoic emotion, a physical emotion. So when we can pour all that out onto the paper, we sort of come back into center and we come into balance. Okay? And then we spark the memory of the divine. We spark the memory of something that feels really good. We start into that flow. We start feeling that connection. And then we can start asking our questions. Okay? And just allowing whatever enters that beautiful mind of yours, no matter how crazy it sounds, whatever enters, whatever feeling you have, whatever sensations you feel, whatever smells come over you, to put it down on that piece of paper. To put it down on the piece of paper. Because channeling is just not words coming down through this little hole in the crown chakra that you got going on. It's not just that. It's using all of your senses and connecting into what they're trying to show you. And sometimes it comes in feelings, and sometimes it comes in straight words through your mind. Sometimes you can smell or feel or just be in the moment of things. So I want you just to everything you see, feel, hear, and experience to put down on that piece of paper. Okay? Who's with me?
Sounds good.
So Venus, when you get down and you start writing on that piece of paper, okay, and you start thinking about journaling, and you're like, I'm afraid of this. Like I'm afraid that I feel disconnected, because I want you to write that. I want you to talk. Just write it out. Talk it out. You know, that son of a bitch caused this block within me, and I cannot get through it, and it's just so hard for me. And write it out. And that is going to help you switch the mentality around your journaling. Okay? Be real. It's so funny, because I think sometimes we have a hard time even being authentic with ourselves when we're in a place where we're trying to manifest or call something into our lives. And I notice that with myself sometimes. Like, I'll try to be very vulnerable and authentic in my communities. And then as I go to sit down and do something like this, like, I'm not really being authentic with myself, right? I'm sort of still trying to mask everything, because I'm still trying to be that good girl who's in a high vibration. And it's like, just screw it. Be who you are, and allow that being who you are to come out on the page. And what happens is, once we get all that out, we start to center and balance naturally to our natural state of being, into who we naturally are.
I gotta run.
Okay. You gotta run?
Yeah.
Bye. We're getting ready to close anyway. All right, guys. So I will leave it here. I'm challenging you all to a week of Channel Divine Guidance, or Channel Divine Journaling. If you have any questions, would you guys please share them in the group? Talk about it. Talk about what the questions that you may have. Do you have any questions left over, Dawn?
I don't think so. And how much time do you usually spend doing this?
Spend as much time as you need to. So if it's 5 minutes, or if it's 15 minutes, or it's 20 minutes, do not put a time limit on it.
Okay.
Do not put a time limit on it. Just allow yourself in that space. Are you better in the morning or at night, Dawn?
Better late day.
Late day? Okay. Then find the times that work for you. Find the times that work for you. Because saying I don't have enough time, yes, we do have busy days. But it can be an excuse to say I don't have time. It can be an excuse that we may not even understand why we're creating that excuse for ourselves. Because when we're trying to grow and we're trying to develop and we're trying to get really connected, we want to make sure we're doing all those things, right? And journaling is an extension of who we are, and it allows our thoughts to be tangible. Okay?
Sounds good.
All right. I want to hear your success stories and even your questions, even your, if there's painful moments or painful points, I want to hear about them. Okay?
Okay.
All right, guys.
Well, thank you.
Love you guys. Have a great day. Enjoy your weekend. And if you are
Enjoy
in this
your cabin, your cute cabin.
we're actually in a hotel right now. We
Oh.
love the cabin.
Well, it was so cute.
It was adorable. We're enjoying it. Having fun.
Thank you.
Love you guys. Have a great day.
Bye.